Welcome back, everyone, to the channel. Thanks for tuning in this evening. Today we got a few guests here, and before we get into that, guys, can you please let me know in the chat if the sound is coming through on my mic and if the screen is clear, and also Derek, give him a hey yeah, and make sure you're coming in through.
Hey yo, everyone.
So we'll wait for. I'm sure Coffee Girl will be the first one to give the thumbs up.
There it
Yep,
is.
I was right, right on cue. Thank you, Coffee Girl. Um, yeah, so we get looks like we're good, and yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in as usual. And Derek just got done with his stream, which I missed because my girlfriend's cabinet was falling apart, so we had to take care of that real fast. And so now Derek's over here with me, and we got also Casey Jones here, and we're gonna talk about the airplane crash that happened the other night. That wasn't a huge story, but certainly has a lot of big ties. So we're going to go over that, and then maybe we'll throw in a few other things that we think of as we go. And please hit the like buttons, guys, if you're just getting in. And we got 63 in the chat. We'll give it like one more minute, and then we'll get started. And let's see who's in there. We got Just a Slice of Pie. Hello. John 316. Hello. Coffee Girl. Casey Golfing. Hello, my brother. Not of This World. Hello. Hope you guys are all great. Coco, Ched's One, JJ Recon. Yeah, nice to see you all tonight. So 79, we'll go ahead and get started. Won't waste too much time. And just another addition, guys. My other video from last night is appearing on my YouTube again. So if you guys want to check that out, it always disappears for like 12 hours or more, and then they let it reappear. I don't know what it is with YouTube. But yeah, that's what's been happening with my videos. Um, so first of all, before I even get into it, we had a relatively unknown character go down in a plane crash on the 6th. His name is Steve Mensch. He's the guy here in the bottom right corner. And I'm going to talk about me and Derek are both going to talk about how this is tied to a bunch of different codes. And me especially, I've been following this plane crash stuff with Trump since Casey Jones brought it to my attention with the Mercury and Trump's Mercury count. So we're going to dive into a bunch of these different things here and just show you how it's kind of all connected. So the first thing I want to mention is just kind of set the stage. So there's three different events that I'm specifically going to look at in my slides that I found were tied together pretty obviously. And the first event that happened this year was there was a movie released called Air Force One Down. And I didn't even know about this movie until today. So all this connections I found were just found today. And then the next event that happened later on in the year, on August 9th, Trump's plane actually suffered a mechanical issue as before it landed. Okay. And then actually, like a week later, JD Vance, his plane also suffered a mechanical issue like a week apart from Trump's. So definitely something with that week there in August, which was the same week they declared the monkeypox too. So that could tie in. But yeah, this was on the 222nd day of the year as well. We know the order out of chaos number, the pandemic, the huge 222 connections with the pandemic. So, and then the third event is the event that kind of brings all this together. And me and Casey were kind of looking at December for something with planes, or Trump's going to turn his 326 Mercury year on December 19th. But on December 6th, we got the death of president of Tyler Perry Studios, Steve Mensch. He was killed in a plane crash in Florida at 62 years old. So these are the events we're going to bring together here. And before I even get into the numbers, I found it quite interesting that Steve Mensch, he's obviously the president, right? So immediately you should think president, right? Well, the studios that he was in charge of, the president of, It's located in Atlanta, and it's Tyler Perry Studios. And come to find out, Tyler Perry Studios actually has a bunch of sets for doing movies. And one of the sets that it has is a White House. On top of that, if you notice that if you go to the list of sets that it has, the first thing that it mentions is an airplane set. So it has an airplane set and it has a White House set. And so this kind of made the connection even stronger because before I even knew it had, Tyler Perry Studios had a White House and an airplane set, I was already making the connection with Trump, the president, and the White House. So very interesting that these are two sets that are in. He was the president of this studio. And the big number that I'm sure Derek and most people saw right off the bat with this guy was that not only did he die at 62, he was born in 1962. His last name, Mensch, equals 62. He died in an airplane crash, which equals 62. He died on 62 date numerology. 12 plus 6 plus 20 plus 24 equals 62. So immediately, I started thinking there must be something very important about this 62. And this ended up being the number that ties kind of all these events together. But what are the chances the guy born in 62 dies at 62? His last name, airplane crash, which equals 62. He dies on date numerology of 62. Even the date itself has the 6 and 2 in it, 126. Um, and that 126 also comes up quite often. Remember, Kobe Bryant went down in a helicopter crash on January 26th, which is the same digits. But so this 62 is the big number I'm going to talk about. But before I even get into the other slides, I just want to lay out why the 62 and the 43 are like brothers, right? Because the 62 is the 43rd composite number. And you're going to notice all of these things equals either 43 or 62. Mensch, the guy who goes down at 62, Air Force One, which is tied to the movie that came out, Air Force One down. Air Force One equals 62. Trump's plane had a mechanical issue on August 9th. You type that out, it equals Air Force One, the same cipher, 62. The airplane crash from Steve Mensch was in Florida, which equals 43, which again, 62 is the 43rd composite number. And Trump is in Florida, okay? Now, Steve Mensch equals 43 like plane crash. So again, just more connections. These two numbers are kind of what you want to keep your focus on through my slides. And as I said, Trump he went down, or he didn't go down. He had a mechanical issue on August 9th, which equals Air Force One. Okay. And but what's interesting about all that is that yeah, the mechanical issue was on August 9th, but all the articles you can find about this incident they were written or they were posted on August 10th, the next day. Well, I think that's important because the next day was 6 months and 2 days after Air Force One down came out, which again, that's that big number I told you. And not only that, but the date numerology of that day, August 10th, when they were reporting this plane incident, was the 62. And this is the same date numerology that Steve Mensch went down at 62 on 62 date numerology. So, wow, what a chance, 6 months and 2 days after this Air Force One down movie comes out. And, what's funny about that is this whole timeline. So, this kind of brings it all together. And I told you it's the 43, 62 is the 43rd composite number. So, the three events that I'm going to bring together here are tied with these numbers. So, first of all, we had Air Force One down come out, which equals Air Force One equals 62. 6 months, 2 days later, Trump has his mechanical. Well, it's in the news that Trump has a mechanical issue on 62 date numerology. Okay. 119 days later, which is also could be very connected to planes. I mean, what happened on, 9/11? It was two planes that hit the towers. But 119 days after that, you had the Steve Mensch go down on 62 date numerology, just like the day after Trump's mechanical issue where they posted all those articles. And you had the airplane crash, which equals 62. He dies at 62. And this day he went down was actually 6 months and 2 days before his birthday. So just like Air Force One down came out 6 months, 2 days before Trump's plane issue, Steve Mensch died 6 months and 2 days before his own birthday. And it gets even crazier when you add the 43 connection in here, because the basic gematria of plane crash is 43. I told you that the 62 is the 43rd composite number. If you measure from Air Force One down to the plane crash of Steve Mensch, the president of Tyler Perry Studios, it's exactly 43 weeks. And he goes down in Florida, which equals 43 in a plane crash. And again, don't forget his name, Steve Mensch, also equals 43 in the same cipher as plane crash. So to me, this is just absolutely undeniable that these events were linked. And again, don't forget that Steve Mensch was the president of Tyler Perry Studios, which had a White House set and an airplane set. Now, the Mercury connection, which we'll kind of let Derek chime in if he wants here, and Casey as well. But the big Mercury connection, which I pretty much give a big shout out to Casey for this. I mean, I didn't find this. This was all Casey bringing this to our attention.
Yep.
And so what I found interesting, guys, is that Trump has other huge connections to plane crashes. And one of his most interesting connections is the day that Trump turned 302 Mercury years old. And don't forget, a Mercury year is 88 days. So that means 302 cycles of 88 days old, which is the Mercury year. Trump was that age, and that is the same day. And I want you guys to think about the absolute odds of this. Out of all the Mercury birthdays, the plane crash that happens on that day is flight 302 on his 302nd Mercury birthday. And there's been other ones. Casey, I know, has told me that it was at the correct me if I'm wrong, Casey, but it was at the very beginning of this year, Trump's 322 Mercury birthday, that the Japanese crash happened, right?
Yeah, that was actually January 2nd, the day after the.
January 2nd. Yeah. So, and think about that in connection to everything that's been going on with Japan. And I know that me and Derek have mentioned this earlier when we were talking. A lot of the stuff right now that's happening is connected to the Japan riddle with Pearl Harbor, with the Shinsuke Nakamura and WWE. A lot of stuff connected with Japan right now.
We just
And
found out that the shooter of the CEO actually lived in Japan earlier this year, and my whole video was about how it's connected to Mario and Luigi, which comes from Nintendo, a Japanese company as well.
And that's the other
yep.
thing about the 1219 date is that is exactly 7 Jupiter years after Pearl Harbor.
Oh wow!
Right, yeah. It's exactly 7. I remember Casey was showing me that 7 years after Pearl Harbor. And um of course, Derek also mentioned something with Kobe that we'll get to in a minute. I'm kind of setting the Mercury thing first, but with the
I have
Steve
more
Men
Mercury too when you're ready.
Okay, yeah. With the Steve Mensch thing, though, what I found pretty crazy is that he went down 302 days after Air Force One down came out. And again, I told you this is the huge Mercury connection with Trump and the Ethiopian Airlines 302. Now, not just that, and this is all Derek's fine. This is what it was in his thing, but I know he's going to have this in his slides too. But so Tyler Perry, the guy who he was the president of his studios, Steve Mensch, they were born, him and Steve Mensch were born exactly 7 years and 98 days apart. And that's pretty mind-blowing when you take into consideration that in the big Jewish cipher, Jewish Latin cipher, Mercury has that 798, like Steve Mensch. And just to throw a few extra ones in here, if this is truly connected to the president and the White House, look at President 798, White House 798. And again, what are the chances that these two guys are born that amount of days apart, and Mercury and all these other things has that 798? And the reason I think this is absolutely tied to Flight 302, when Trump was 302 Mercury years old, is because not only did Steve Mensch go down 302 days after Air Force One Down came out, Steve Mensch was born the same year that the airport where Flight 302 was leaving from. So that means that Steve Mensch is 60. Well, he died at 62. That means this airport is currently also 62. And I told you this was the big number with this whole riddle with these 3 events this year. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that's probably why this is tied together like that. And again, that 62 comes up. But I've noticed that they've hidden this 62 in other plane crash things because look at the show Manifest, which was about a plane disappearing. And this show was completely connected to Donald Trump. Okay. Let me just show you that first. This show, Manifest, was about a plane that disappears and is feared crashed. But actually, what happens is it time travels like 5 years into the future, pretty much, is what it does. And this flight is called Flight 828. Okay. And this flight was going from Jamaica to New York. And this is obviously a Trump riddle because Trump was born in Jamaica Hospital in New York, and his name equals 828. So you have Flight 828 that was going from Jamaica to New York, and and Trump was born in Jamaica in New York. Okay, so that's just showing that this movie was completely connected to Trump. But on top of that, this movie had 62 episodes, like Airplane Crash, like Mensch, like all the 62s I showed. Its last episode aired on 6/2, and Trump's mechanical issue on his plane was exactly 62 weeks after 6/2, the last episode of this show, which was the 62nd episode. So come on now. Like, that's pretty obvious. And again, on top of the connection with Donald Trump being like clearly coded into this show. And one last thing before I hand it off to Derek, which we might talk more about as we go through this. With this flight and Manifest being the Flight 828, right? Steve Mensch, on the day he died in a plane crash, was exactly 22,828 days old. And what's funny about the 22 being in front of there is because in gematria, the word crash equals 22. So 22 like crash and 828 like Donald Trump, like Flight 828 in Manifest. And on top of that, he was the president for Tyler Perry. And on the same day of that, Tyler Perry had all 8s and 2s. In fact, Tyler Perry had Trump's dial code. Think about it. Trump's dial code is 88022. And look at the numbers in Tyler Perry's age. 88022. So this is obvious. I mean, I don't even know. I'm sure there's even more. I don't know if I even found all that there is to find with this riddle, but I'm going to be looking more because I think I have more plane crash stuff. But Derek, I mean, I think you'll probably have, and Casey, if you guys have something now, go ahead and chime in there.
Well, yeah, the plane crash riddle with Donald Trump is far more extreme than most people realize. For instance, Trump owns a building in New York called 40 Wall Street, which is known as the Trump Building. And in 1946, which is the same year that Trump was born, a plane crashed into that very building in New York City. Now, look at the date of this crash, right? The 20th of May of 1946. Now, when you punch that date in and measure to Trump's birthday, we find that that crash was 25 days before he was born. And the date of the crash was the 20th of May, or 20/5. However, there was also another plane crash into a New York skyscraper just 1 year before that. And that happened at the Empire State Building. And when you measure from the date of that crash to the date of the 9/11 attacks, you get a span of 20,500 days. Well, we take this over to gematria, and the name Trump equals 25 in reduction, whereas the phrase plane crash equals the 25th prime number. So this is like going back almost a full century here. It's not just 9/11, it's not just these recent ones. It's all of them. And the big alignment that pointed us to a potential plane crash that's connected to Trump this month was that the Donald turns, and again, this was Casey's find when he brought this to our attention a month or two ago. So on December 19th, Trump turns exactly 326 mercurial years old. Now, it's not just every single mercurial birthday of Trump that's significant, but this 326 really stood out because with Donald Trump and the recent shooting, there's been a lot of connections to John F. Kennedy, who was shot and killed on the 326th day of the year. So this is a trending number in relation to that. Now, if you measure from Trump's special mercurial birthday to the plane crash of Steve Mensch, which was on the 6th, not the 16th, well, it was 13 days before that special Mercury date. And in gematria, not only does Mercury equal 103, a lot like the number 13, but it also sums to 41, which is the 13th prime number. Now, on top of all that, from the 9/11 attacks in 2001 to Mensch's plane crash on the 6th, we get this 8488. Now, there's 3 8s in here, which I'll touch on in a second. But the 88, well, that's a Trump number, right? Trump is 88. And what's the orbital period of the planet Mercury? Well, it's approximately 88 days, 87.969. Seems to keep getting lower and lower every time I look at it, but it's close to 88. So no doubt this was the crash, or at least one crash, connected to that special mercurial alignment that we spotted ahead of time. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, Cody, that I was on your channel, and the first things I talked about were themes connected to Miami and themes connected to Mercury. And literally the next day, a Miami Dolphins running back named Mercury Morris died. So yeah, when you pay attention to Mercury orbits and understand that Mercury is the god of transportation and boundaries and all these things, it's undeniable that these are synced.
It's perfect with Mercury too, because he's often depicted with flying shoes. So he's very connected with flying too, and transportation, of course. But
exactly.
So I think flights are they love to do the Mercury stuff with flight, and even Back to the Future being what it was, a flying car that flies in the air, that travels in time. I think that there's actually a huge riddle here with that. Also, to go with what you said about the whole 326 thing and JFK.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, yeah. Joseph in the chat mentioned the bridge collapse was on 326, and that's a number that Casey has shown is really connected with Kobe. But also, what I wanted to mention was the the girl who actually stars in the Air Force One Down movie. Guess what birthday she has? She's the main character who's supposed to save the day in that, and she just happens to have that 326 day of the year birthday, which is JFK's death date. So definitely something there with that. I need to look more into the movie, but just based off of what I saw there, that was what I found interesting with her birthday.
So yeah, if you don't mind, then I'll touch on this 888, right? So again, this same measurement on the screen is from the September 11th attacks to the plane crash of Steve Mensch. So in this measurement, there's 3 8s. And that's very important because on this same date, December 6th of 2024, well, it just so happens that that was the release date of a Tyler Perry Studios film called The 6888. And look at the poster for the movie. It's got airplanes in it. So it's almost like these riddles are getting more and more obvious or more clear. Is it just me? Maybe I'm just speculating.
I mean, that one's pretty clear. I mean, I'm glad you found that because I didn't, I missed that, and I didn't even think to look into if Tyler Perry had a movie come out that day that he died. But I mean, what is the absolute odds
Yeah, I
that
was like, oh, does he have any movies this year? Oh, he's got a movie in December. Oh, it's got a movie on that very day. Oh, it's got airplanes. It's like, come on.
And as Casey mentioned to me earlier, it's about sending messages, right? Because they're mailmen or mailwomen, I guess, right?
Correct. Yeah, these are like mail sorters, essentially. The most heroic mail sorters of all time, I might add.
Oh yeah.
So, okay. And this number, the triple eights, when you measure from the release of this battalion, so this film is about the 6888th or the 6888th Battalion, which was sent into World War II to help with the mail. Well, there's a specific date associated with this battalion, February 3rd of 1945. This was the deployment date of the battalion. And wouldn't you know, from the measurement of this date to the birthday of Tyler Perry, you get a triple eight, 8,988 days. And if you measure from that same date to the birth of Steve Mensch, you get 6,333 days. And no, the number 3 is not an 8. But if you close the loop on the left side, that's a 6,888. So again, it's of course it's not going to equal 6888. That would be too much, right? But consider how 333 is the gematria of Very Perry Productions LLC, which is the company's official name. Now, what's wild about the 888, Cody, is that I've connected air disasters to the number 888 before. Back in 2020, Kobe Bryant died in perhaps the most famous air disaster in modern times. His death occurred 888 days after the first Great American Eclipse. And he died on the same day as the Royal Rumble in WWE, which equals 888. And this is a big pi number, right? 3.14 has the 888, which is made up of 6 circles. And just as a little aside for you guys, 6 circles sums to 609, just like pi is 69. And guess what Kobe Bryant equals? Kobe Bryant, 690.
Crazy.
You add 888 plus 888, you get 1776, the year of America's founding. Well, Steve Mensch died 1,776 days after Kobe Bryant.
Which is wild.
Yeah, and Kobe wore number 33 in high school.
You know what? You know what's funny about that is just like last week or 2 weeks ago, I did notice that day was Kobe Bryant's 1776 day since he died. I actually looked into that and saw that, and I was like, huh, look, Kobe's 1776 day lands on 126, like he died on 126. So I thought to myself, I wonder if we get something, and then it didn't actually click in my head that I had found that earlier until like today, really, when you made the connections in your thing, because I was like, oh man, I remember looking at that, but I didn't know if that was gonna tie together. And well, there you go, you got a plane crash. So
Yeah, and isn't it interesting that Very Perry Productions LLC gives us a double 126?
yeah,
Kobe
I
did
saw
on
that.
126, Steve on 12.6, and then Mensch's 126 like plane.
Steve Mensch also equals 126 in the Francis Bacon cipher that I often use. I don't the one the Elizabethan some of the people call. I know Rambo has used it often, but yeah, his full name Steve Mensch actually equals 126 in that cipher.
Nice. Yeah, and I just want to point out too, the connections to Kobe are pretty deep, right? So he wore the number 33 in high school. And when Steve Mensch died, it was 303 days after the new Kobe Bryant statue was unveiled outside the Staples Center, which is now the Crypto.com arena where the Lakers play. And that 62 and 26 that you talked about earlier, these are numbers connected to sacrifice. And Bryant equals 26 and 206, just like Mensch. But look at this. So Kobe wore the number 33 when he went to high school in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which sums to 1611. 1611, the year that the King James Bible was printed, of course. Well, Steve Mensch was born exactly 16 years and 11 weeks before Kobe. And then he dies exactly 65 sidereal months after Kobe, and both Kobe and Philadelphia equal 65.
I mean, think about how wild that is, considering what you just showed. Kobe died, or Steve Mensch died 1776 days after Kobe, and Kobe was in Philadelphia, where the Declaration of Independence, 1776, and then they happened to be born, that 1611, which is the gematria of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So if you guys are, I mean, that's pretty mind blowing right there.
And then Mensch was also a span of exactly 750 months old when he died. Well, 75 is the reverse value of Kobe, and Mensch has the 75 in his birth numerology too. But ultimately, and this is something you clued me into as well, Cody, before I even saw this story, is the pi riddle. Now, we talked about pi and summing to 3.14 is 888, right? This was the big thing with Kobe Bryant. Well, Pi Day eclipse has that 666, which is a big number of the circle in pi. And one day before the Pi Day eclipse next year, Tyler Perry turns 666 months old. And it's crazy because when you run his full name, what I did is I put Emmett Perry Jr., but then put Tyler in the middle. Like that's how we commonly see it when someone has a nickname. They'll kind of add their nickname as a middle name. And when you do that, Emmett Tyler Perry Jr. equals pi. It's a super match, 25, 29, 11.
The Emmett thing is interesting too, because that's the name of Emmett Brown from Back to the Future. So I know there might be something there, but
Sure.
And then there's a whole nother riddle we could look into too with Matthew Perry, but we won't get into that here. But I'm sure there is a riddle to it.
Sure. But and then you cycle back, right? And it's like, okay, so there's a connection to the Pi Day eclipse, but why? Well, this 88th Battalion, look at this launch date, right? February 3rd. And by the way, February 3rd is written 203, right? Total lunar eclipse equals 203. Well, in Latin, total lunar eclipse equals 804. And this battalion was launched exactly 80 years and 40 days before the Pi Day eclipse that's coming up. And then look at Kobe's age for the eclipse, right? Not only will he be 203 days after his birthday, which is like total lunar eclipse, but he'd also be 17,006 days old. And not only does Steve Mensch equal 1076, but Mensch equals 176. And then for total lunar eclipse, it also sums to 1184 in standard. And look at the magnitude of the upcoming Pi Day eclipse. 1.1804, 1184, to match the gematria of total lunar eclipse. So this is like outrageous. And then let's take this a step further. When Steve Mensch died, Kobe would have been 16,908 days old. And 1698 is the gematria of Society of Jesus, which uses the circular sun. Pi is 16, and 3.14 is 98, 1698, just like Kobe's age for Steve's death. And then he dies 98 days before the Pi Day eclipse. And by the way, Cody, total lunar eclipse shares the 798 with Mercury and Steve Mensch, just like how he was 7 years and 98 days old when Tyler Perry was born.
Yeah, that's 798 was wild. I can't believe I didn't catch that, but I'm glad you did.
Well, that's why we tag team these things. You know, I watched wrestling growing up. I know the rules of that. You got to tag in and out sometimes. Yeah. But this is it's just so well lined up. And I just want to point out how much Latin gematria is used here, because like this really is the cipher that unveils the true mathematics of the language, I think. And another strong connection was that when Kobe Bryant died, it was exactly 623 lunations after Tyler Perry was born. And the name Bryant equals 623, just like 89. 89 weeks is 623 days also. And now
And
Tyler
that's
Perry was a span of 8,989 days old. Or
and that's
I'm
the
sorry,
day
he
that
was born 8,989 days after the battalion was launched.
Trump had his mechanical issue on 8/9. So
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, there was something more with that number too. But it does trip me out that 89 is 623. And then you go backwards 89 weeks from any date, and it's exactly 623 days.
hmm that's crazy. The one of the thing I noticed there as you were going through the Kobe thing, I noticed that Kobe will turn like a 1776 at some point soon. Because right, you said well, he was like 1706 or something, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, good
Like his
point. So
actual age, if he was still alive.
yeah, so his age for the Pi Day eclipse matches the gematria of Steve Mensch. So I guess if you look
Oh,
at it
okay.
this way, 314. So at some point he'll have the 1776 next year, and that's on 523 or 235. Kobe was born on the 235th day of the year.
You know
And
what's
look at
crazy
Kobe's
about that?
lunation number, 688. Look at that. I didn't even catch that, Cody.
Wow.
So Kobe was born during Brown Lunation 688, and this whole thing is about the 6888th Battalion.
You know what's funny about that number? Remember that was the number I was showing you was in my organic code like a few days ago.
That's right. Yeah, I do
It
remember.
started popping up now ever since I discovered that. Because I think it was, is it my, I think I was born in, wait, oh, I was born in like 834, which is the 688 prime lunation. And my mom's name equals either 834 or 688. I can't remember now. But yeah, there's an interesting connection with me and that number too. But yeah, and what's interesting about him turning that 1776 on May 23rd, that is Bray Wyatt's birthday. And we know how big of a connection Bray Wyatt and Kobe had.
Yeah, so that'll be his 38th birthday for Bray Wyatt, and big death number. Interesting lunation counts, the 47 and 58.
Hey, 470 is the gematria of Trump in Latin.
Yeah. And then the 58, which is a big Trump number too. Kobe Bryant equals 58. And of course, in prime numbers, Donald John Trump has the 58, winner of the 58th election and sworn in on a 58 date, 58-story Trump Tower, all that good stuff. So, similar to how we looked ahead with Mercury before and said, hey, there's probably going to be something connecting for that date. Yeah, this looks like a date where we're going to get another Kobe event. And I actually have a Kobe Bryant playlist for anyone interested on my channel. These are all videos I've made. I got 12 of them, and every one of them shows a deep Kobe connection to all these events. It's one of the most repetitive, transparent codes I think that are out there.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot with Kobe in the upcoming year, the Snake, because he was the Black Mamba. I mean,
Good
and
point.
um, Casey. Now he dropped out again, but oh, there he is. So Casey, he brought to my attention the snakes on the plane connection, which I didn't put in my slides. I didn't have time, but Casey, you want to chime in on the snakes on the plane thing? Because think about it, snake year, planes. 9/11 was in a snake year. Planes hitting the towers in a snake year. Look at the eight, the catechist, the Mercury symbol, right? Isn't that the catechist pretty much on the plane on the cover there?
Oh, oh, the caduceus, yeah.
Caduceus, yeah,
Caduceus,
it
yeah, that's
basically
what I meant.
is.
got that 48, like Trump, like Donald Trump.
I don't know if I'm coming through.
You're coming through. Yep.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, I was saying that that plane crash was exactly 76 Mercury years after the premiere of Snakes on a Plane. So I thought that kind of lined up with the 1776 days from Kobe Bryant's death,
Yep.
and
And what's
of
the?
course,
I think what was the other thing that you told me about? Was there something else with the snakes on the plane, or was that it?
that may have been it. I mean, Kobe Bryant, he was the Black Mamba, and I have to go back and look at our conversation, see if I
Yeah, our
mentioned anything
conversation
else.
is where I archived a lot of my plane crash stuff because I didn't actually write it down. A lot of the plane crash stuff I have is in our conversation archive. So, but the 76, I think that connected with what I was the 76. It was something I wanted to tell you, Casey, but I um I forgot what it was with the 76 now because I remember you telling me that and then I had found something. Yeah, I don't remember now. I'll have to see if it comes back to me, but yeah, go ahead if you have something else you want to.
Well, I don't know much about snakes on a plane. It's not something I've decoded yet, but it is worth a history by the numbers decode, I suppose.
Well, what I can think about with the 76 is, Trump has that 76 in his name, Skull
Yes.
and Bones. Um, I think it's Donald John Trump. Yeah, Skull and Bones 76, of course. George Bush, birthday. The Guidestones went down on his 76th birthday. So yeah, that's something more I'm going to look into with this year, considering it's the snake year. And I just find it super interesting that the cover for that is literally showing the Mercury caduceus and also it's like an eight there. That's what it really. That's what those snakes really look like. They're forming is an eight.
Yeah, and look at the date 8/18, and then 2006. What's 2 plus 6?
Yeah. Yeah, and then I guess we'll have to look more into that, but I think there's definitely something there. I wanted to look into it more before this stream, but I just didn't have time. So
Right on. That's all I pretty much got on the plane crash, though. I think I always try to keep my posts short, but there's just too many things I can't ignore, and I think you'd agree. I mean, this is a rich ritual.
yeah, yeah. The 62 and 43 thing really got me though, because I kept seeing the 62s and the 43s, and I was like, well, why am and then when I realized that the 62 was the 43rd composite number, and it just seemed to all fit together, with what I showed earlier, and just those three things that happen. Um, yeah, I just think it's pretty crazy. And I don't know exactly what all these plane crash riddles with Trump mean. I think it could have something to do with the markets crashing at some point too, because Mercury, the god of commerce and also travel, and it could be pointing to March. I keep seeing all these things pointing to March, but we'll see. And with the whole thing with March, this Luigi thing, being I don't know if you caught my live stream from the other night, Derek, but the year of the Luigi was the same year as the last year of the snake, which was the year the Pope took over. So
Well, yeah, that game Luigi's Mansion came out 1 week after the Pope became the Pope, and
yep,
I
yeah.
actually mentioned that in my stream
Oh,
because Pope
and you
Francis took
know,
over 7 days before the release of Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon.
The other thing about Pope Francis, he was born exactly 33 years after the first flight.
oh yeah, that's right. I think didn't you tell me? I think you told me that before. Actually, I forgot about that.
Yeah, probably at some point.
But the reason I pointed it out is because 1 week is 33, and 7 days is also 33. And when you go to the 33rd verse of the Bible, let's see, I'm in the wrong Genesis here. So here we're in the 33rd verse of the Bible. See this? And on the seventh day, God ended his work, and he rested
Wow.
on the seventh day. So 7 days equals 33, and so does 1 week, right? Well, lunar is 33 reverse, and then eclipse is 33 reduction. And this Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon came out exactly 1 week after Francis became the Pope.
Hmm.
And
And
that
it
was
just,
under brown lunation. See the lunation 1116?
uh-huh.
That's the birthday of Mario creator Shigeru Miyamoto. 1116.
That's David Swartz's birthday. I did a whole thing on David Swartz, the Ripple creator, which, I mentioned in my video yesterday, how all this was tied to Ripple because one day before they revealed Luigi, was the as the suspect, it was Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, was on 60 Minutes. And yeah, so it was super tied, and Ripple Labs Inc. equals, the name of the shooter and all that stuff. And then the 589 connection, which is super tied to XRP as well. And that Luigi was revealed as the suspect exactly 589 prime days after the Pope became Pope too. So yeah, it all seemed to fit perfectly with what's going on right now. That's why I think that all this plane crash stuff could have something to do with markets crashing. But I don't know. I guess we'll see what March brings.
Well, yeah, March is the eclipse, so I would expect something around that time to change, whether it's regarding to money or not. I'm not sure. I'm just a decoder, but
Yeah.
it'll be interesting. The next year will be really interesting.
Yeah, and like I pointed out in my video yesterday, the year of the snake is no year to mess around with. I mean, things happen. Things do happen in the year of the snake. That's let's just put it that way. So, um,
Yep.
and with the 2013 was like one of the least uneventful years of the snake, but we did have the blackout bowl that year. So that's why I think it's interesting too. And somebody in the chat is saying in the new Wicked movie, there's a blackout in the town. I need to watch that movie. Somebody told me there's a blackout at the end of that movie. And I think, again, could be more symbolism with that. So someone in the chat's also saying Revelation 11:16 and 24 elders who sit on their thrones before God fell on their faces and worshipped. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, it's always interesting taking these concepts, particularly when it comes to like solar and lunar eclipses, and then running them through the Bible, because you do end up finding that some of the verses that connect to the numbers you're decoding, like it just makes sense. It's a hard thing to explain sometimes. But this 995, I know I just saw this 995. What was it? Oh, this is going to bug me out. I could have sworn I just had a 995 weeks on the screen. Well, I don't want to bore anybody, so. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I got for this stuff. Was it Snakes on a Plane release? Holy shit! 955. Never mind.
Yeah.
This is why I script
I
out my videos as much as I can.
yeah. I mean, it is interesting though. There was something else I wanted to say too about that number 995, but I feel like I saw that earlier today too, to be honest. But I can't. I need to keep a better track of what I need to write stuff down when I see stuff, but sometimes I just don't do that.
No, I hear you there.
But the somebody's saying also in the Sonic movie, Kevin, my buddy's saying the Sonic movie, Sonic causes a blackout also. Is that the new one or one of or the older ones? Apparently, I'm gonna have to look into these two movies if it's one of the newer ones. And
Hey,
also, I
just
go ahead, Casey.
I just want to remind about Pope Francis being born on the anniversary of the first flight. I think he's important again to that 326 because when the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed, it was what was it? Was it 326 days to his 88th birthday or something to that effect?
What was it again?
Oh, when the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed, it was a significant day span. It could have been 326 days, I think. I just think it's important because Pope bridge builder or
You're cutting out a you're cutting
Pope.
out a bit, but are you saying from the from Pope Francis' birth to the bridge collapse? Is that what you said?
Oh shoot, I never have a good connection on this. I'm just saying he wants a bridge glass because Pontiff means bridge builder, and he was born on the 33rd anniversary of the first flight.
Yeah, and that's a good point to bring up too. With that, I need to look more into that because I either you told me that before, and but now you just reminded me of that. So I need to look more into Air Force One in general too. The timeline behind Air Force One. Oh, what's that 576 you got up there? What is that?
This is from Francis being elected Pope to the bridge collapse. Francis Scott Key.
Interesting.
It is.
That's the moon number I've revealed.
Right.
Um, that is super interesting
Okay,
right
so it
there.
was 266 days to the Pope's 88th birthday when the bridge collapsed.
Right, right. Okay, yeah.
That's what it was. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention is like I saw a little riddle with if you mesh the names of Tyler Perry and Steve Mensch, you get Tyler Perry or Steven Tyler, and he was born on 326. And if you go from the release of the song "I Don't Want to Miss a Thing" to December 6th, it's exactly 326 lunar months.
Hmm.
Really. What
Yeah.
caused you to look at that song, Bobby?
Oh man, I couldn't tell you.
Because I remember that
It's just
song. I
I
remember it was
just
from
thought,
some movie and it was on the radio all the time.
Well, to be fair, that is one of the ones that comes in my head when I think of Aerosmith.
You said, sorry, from the release of that song to what? Oh, 98. My bad. And we're measuring to where? Or is it the film?
Oh wait, the Casey, are you still there? I don't know if he. I don't know. Maybe we can't hear him. He might have cut out.
Could be on the road.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Steve Mensch's plane
what
crash.
about
Sorry, Bobby. We were just trying to figure out what you told us, but yeah. So the Mensch plane crash was exactly 326 lunar phases after the release of a Steven Tyler song called "I Don't Want to Miss a
yeah,
Thing."
yeah, that was for the film Armageddon.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that was it. Armageddon.
Had his which had his daughter. His daughter was in the film, and she was also in Pearl Harbor, right?
Uh, I don't remember.
I think maybe she
Yeah,
was.
pretty
Yeah.
sure.
And I think she was also. Yeah, she's been in a good amount of movies, but yeah, I think she was in that movie.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, she was the elf. Wasn't she the elf in the Lord of the Rings? Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Is I think that CEO, the United Healthcare CEO. I think he kind of looks like Sean Astin, you know, Samwise Gamgee.
Oh yeah, yeah. There is a resemblance. There is a
Yeah,
resemblance. Yeah.
and there's a riddle with Sean Astin. I think were you talking about the Dark Moon stuff, right?
Yeah, that's
Sean,
Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. Yeah.
yeah, Sean Astin. He turns 666 lunar months old on the day of the black moon this month on December 30th.
Hmm. Samwise Gamgee, huh? The sidekick of Frodo.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't want to get too sidetracked with this, but it's funny we're mentioning Armageddon, because this was a movie directed by Michael Bay, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and a couple years later, Michael Bay directed Pearl Harbor, right? Yeah. Okay. So this
Huh.
is trippy to me personally. This is a totally separate from what we're talking about, but when I was in 8th grade, um for the first time I had a classmate who died. He was a grade below me, but he was a really smart kid. And his name was Michael Bay,
Huh.
and he died
Wow.
in a plane crash.
Oh, really?
And yeah, I actually have a whole post on this. It's super trippy. It's super synced up to Michael Bay, the director, and the release of Armageddon, which was just a couple weeks, I think, after he died. So this movie came out July 1st. My classmate died on May 5th or May. What was the date? Shoot. Um, I know I have it in here somewhere. May 15th, 1998. And this is weird because that's Mercuralia, May
Uh-huh.
15th. It's
So
also my brother's.
that's the day he died in the plane crash on Mercury.
Yes.
Whoa.
And it was like at 9:11 a.m. or 9:10, they said. Um, but yeah, it's just weird. Like, I always wondered if this was organic or if the Illuminati cares about a 6th grader at the middle school I went to. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But
That
it's
is pretty.
it's totally by the numbers. I have a post and an old video on it, and it's just weird, like how far this numerology matrix script stretches.
I mean, just what you showed just there was wild with the Mercuralia and the Michael Bay connection. That's pretty crazy. And the Michael Bay equals plane crash. It's crazy.
Yeah, and this also happened on my brother's 22nd birthday. My brother is a truck driver, and he was born on Mercuralia. And Crash is 22. So I don't know. It's just it seems to be like an organic thing that just I don't know, but
Yeah,
wild
I would say
nonetheless.
I would lean more towards that being organic, but that's still wild though, you know?
Yeah, and he was on his way to Washington D.C.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, so he was young, so who was he flying with?
He was flying with his mom and his
Oh,
2 uncles.
I see. But they were on their way to DC for like,
A
did they say
graduation.
what? Oh, a graduation.
Right. And so this guy was from Heartland, Wisconsin, where I used to live. And a couple years after I did that decode, 6 people died in a fire in Heartland at a house fire in my old subdivision. And this happened the same weekend the Packers played in Washington, the same city that my friend was traveling to. I say my friend, I knew him, an acquaintance.
You know what's crazy about that
Wait,
whole
wait,
thing?
Cody, let me finish this first. This is too wild.
Okay. Okay.
So the name of the adults who died in that fire in Heartland was McKissick. And the name of the running back for the Washington Commanders is McKissick. And think about Kiss, Heartland, Heart, Love. The Packers ended up with Jordan Love.
Yeah.
So this is, I guess, like this is to me, this is the organic side of it. I don't know how or why anybody would do this random stuff, but I just share the numbers and
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I just noticed too, like the two teams that played is like George Washington, GW. Like
Hmm.
must be
Yeah,
something there with that.
it's too weird, man. And this was just as like Rambo released a video this morning of the fire too, like about the heart. And I was like, man, my old town of Heartland, it all happened. It's just wild.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I can't say I have anything quite like that in my thing, but I've definitely seen some wild connections too. Just keeping track of stuff throughout my life. Some of the things, I know we all have it, but yeah, there's definitely wild stuff. Especially, I mean, Sean has shown plenty of wild stuff with his dad, and it's crazy. It really is.
And shout out to the people in your chat who think I'm rich. Um, yeah, I am barely scraping by with Gematria. Thank you guys, but
Oh, I who said that? I didn't see that comment, but
yeah, if I could afford to like keep my family from working, that would be great. But um, my goal is Gematria.
yeah, I mean, gematria is just what we fell into. It's like our destiny. So
Right. The healthcare industry was paying me like almost 3 times as much as I'm making now. So,
yeah,
oof. Wasn't my best financial decision, but I'm very spiritually glad I did it.
yeah, yeah. I think you chose the right thing. I mean, I'm grateful for it because again, without your stuff, I wouldn't have had. It's the snowball effect. Without what you were doing, most of us wouldn't have known half the stuff we know. So, I mean, without your calculator, I wouldn't have found half the things I found. So
Yeah,
that's just
I
the
guess looking back, I feel like it definitely just kind of sped things up. Like we would have gotten here eventually. Um, but my obsessiveness does have benefits, I believe.
yeah. I mean, like you know, the calculator is amazing. Like every day I'm glad I have access to it. That's just how I feel. So because it's just such a great tool, and just all the other stuff that you've added over the last couple of years with the moon cycles and the planets stuff and the just everything that's there. It's just such a well-rounded tool, in my opinion. So
I will say though, like the guy says in the chat, I have finally. This is the first year I've like supplemented my income with sports betting. I've always like had a little bit here and there when stuff comes up, but the Formula One season this year was so good for me. Like I couldn't even believe it. I don't think it's going to be as easy next year. It never is, but it'll be fun to watch.
yeah, who knows what they'll do? I mean, maybe they'll make it harder on you, but I know you were killing it this year. So and I mean, it's probably because you were really putting time into it and really making the best of the riddles. And yeah, I think hopefully next year doesn't get too much harder on you.
Well, no, I think over the next year, though, talking about the calculator, I haven't said anything on my channel yet. I really need to take a little break from decoding for a little bit because there are a lot of things I want to add on the website, but I'm not the kind of person who can carry 2 projects at a time, with decodes and programming. I guess I did it a couple years ago, but um, there's definitely some things I want to put on there, and I'm kind of cautious about changing the calculator as it is, like the main one, because even though I think people have gotten used to it, there were a lot of complaints when I changed it a couple years ago. So I don't want to stray too far from the formula, but there are some things I want to create that make connections a little bit easier to make, especially between dates and gematria. Right now, those pages are completely separate. And if I combine them into like tabs within the same page, I can create some powerful tools that kind of help you along with the decode. It'll give you things that might not matter, but it'll help things pop out. So that if you type in a name and it sums to a number that was also the lunation count of someone else in the decode, these things will appear for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because I think over the years, like I feel like I've developed a pretty good understanding of where to look and how things connect. And now that I feel really good about my decodes and where everything has gotten, I think a little bit of a little nudge for everyone else too to kind of help see these things as I do. And I have a lot more time on my hands than most people, so some of these patterns, come easier to others than they do. Um, you know, I'm just rambling, but I
Yeah.
really
I
want
mean,
to take some time in 2025 and just improve the website and make it even more worth subscribing to, offering more astrology tools as well, so people can see their charts and things like that. These are things that we just have to add eventually. So we'll
Hey
get there
Derek,
soon.
somebody in the chat was asking about the lunations on your calculator. Maybe you could share with them like which tier they need to subscribe to have access to the lunations and the planetary counts. And yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to talk to you about that. Because there's gonna be like an API we need and stuff. As far as getting that data, unless I found a way to create it on my own, which I don't really want to do. Um, Someone asked if I have any kids. No, I don't. I am single happily and probably will be staying that way. So my focus is on the work and the community, keeping everybody going, making sure that everyone who's really good at this and shares it is also able to do so. It's funny too. There's a lot of negativity in the community about who's at the top and what they're doing with money and stuff like that. And you know, I don't have much to work with, but the stuff I do have to work with, we're trying to focus on gematria and building stuff. And within due time, we're gonna have something pretty fucking cool.
yeah. And like I said, I for one am grateful for your work because it has helped me, it has helped others, and it's helped my channel, and you've helped me out, which I greatly appreciate. And everything that you do is appreciated from my end. And I know there's plenty of people out there that also feel the same. So there's always going to be people, I think, especially when you make changes to the calculator, you start charging for something. There's always going to be people that complain about something, but I think, in reality, I don't think there's a better calculator. And yeah, I think that what you've been doing has really been so important to the community. So
Well, I appreciate the kind words. Just laughing at some of the questions in the chat. Uh, when it comes to other decoders, I just at this point in my life, I just let everyone be them. People will figure out who they like. If when you watch YouTube, you subscribe to people who sort of speak your language, are on your vibrational level. You know what I mean?
mhm.
And as long as people discover my channel and watch it, it seems like it's all good vibes. Um, I think it's just unfortunate that there's so much negativity with stuff that's going on with other channels. And
Yeah,
I don't have anything against Zach's work. Like it really is his work that got me into gematria to begin with. Him and Dan Barrett, as far as the like organic side too. And no, I don't agree with everything he's done and said, but um, the guy's a hard worker. You can't shade him for that.
I mean, yeah, that is one thing, for sure. I mean, his last live stream last night, I think I saw him. He's been just staying up with his baby, and he goes on live streams and still works even with the baby in his hand. So yeah, he's dedicated. He's a hard worker, and again, like you said, without his work, I wouldn't have also found you or your calculator, and also, you know. But yeah, do I agree with everything he's done or said? No, not necessarily. But if I do see his video come up and about a new story, it's usually worth watching because there's usually something in there I can get from it, and something I can learn. So that's just how I see it. Same with your videos and same with most all the other decoders I watch. That's usually that's how I look at it. If I can take some info from it, if it's good info, I'll suck it up. So
Yeah, and I mean, it's like he's talked so bad about so many people that it doesn't even matter. Like when something is said about me or someone else at this point, it's just like whatever, man. It's water under the bridge. Ultimately, we have a similar goal, which is waking people up to this thing that somehow no one sees. You know what I mean? So I don't want to talk about it like we're on a different team or whatever. But
yeah, and speaking of that, did you see what Zach shared in his vid? I don't know if you saw it, but he's talking about how something's going viral right now on Twitter. And it's like this number that's connected to this Luigi guy. Did you see that? It's like the number 286 or something.
no, I didn't.
Because apparently the amount of posts on Luigi's Twitter when he got arrested or something was 286 posts, and then he has a his picture on that same Twitter is um it's a Pokemon, and the Pokemon is the 286 Pokemon, and so that in itself is pretty interesting. There was some other 286s that was been sharing around as viral, but I didn't really go through all of it, but I also did find a huge connection with the Luigi's Mansion, how he has a vacuum cleaner in there. That's his gun that he uses in that game. And if you scroll down, I'm going to do a whole video about this, but if you scroll down Luigi's posts on Twitter, you're going to see a huge vacuum connection, man. One of his latest posts from this year. It blew my mind, the whole thing. But I'm looking more into it, but it is I don't want to give too much of it away now because I really haven't even found a lot. But there is a huge one of his tweets literally points us back to this vacuum in the Luigi's Mansion. So I thought that was wild.
Oh yeah, I do want to see that now, especially.
Of course, that Pokemon would be a mushroom themed Pokemon, with all the mushrooms in Mario's world. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yep. That's what I forgot to mention too was that mushroom or that Pokemon was a mushroom connection.
Yeah.
And me and my girlfriend had been picking up on a riddle here like in the last month. There was a bunch of people that were getting sick from mushrooms. Like an Amish family had been reported had gotten sick from a bunch of mushrooms. There was a German family that was also in the news for getting sick from mushrooms. So, and we were kind of me and my girlfriend were also kind of thinking mushroom clouds,
Hey,
being
I,
something
I
that.
actually got a bag of Amanita muscaria gummies last week, and it's not a psychedelic, but it is a psychoactive. It does have a psychoactive component to it. And one of the I did have sort of a vision. It was actually a Pokemon. It was Mr. Mime. So there seems to have been a Pokemon theme going on, at least for me, with me and some other decoders and YouTubers the past 2 or 3 weeks. So I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, I'm gonna look more into this whole thing with his 286 number, and then also this vacuum thing that's on his. I mean, hopefully I can find some more with this vacuum stuff because it's gonna be pretty wild if I can make some more connections with it. So we'll see. But yeah, not sure if any you guys have anything else to add before we. I don't know how if I'm gonna stay. I don't know, Derek. Usually you probably have stuff you want to do. So if you want to get off, you can. I don't know if I might stay on for like another 10, 15 minutes and just look at some of the comments and stuff. But
Uh, I can hang out for a couple more minutes.
okay, yeah, and um, actually, I mean, let's just give a little sneak peek of what I found because I just thought this was wild. Like I I just went to Luigi. What's Just go to his X. Why does it not come up? Man, ever since I got this new computer, and thank you for the computer, by the way, Derek. It's so much better. Um,
Of course.
I And the one thing I is annoyed is this was a German computer, so I have to get used to the buttons are a bit different on the actual keyboard, and then it doesn't have the Google. It takes me immediately to Microsoft Bing, which I find doesn't give necessarily always the best searches. So, but yeah, see, it comes up when you Google it, but when you do Microsoft Bing, it doesn't come up. So anyway, if you go to this guy's Twitter, again, there's this Pokemon with his the mushroom Pokemon, and that's the 286 Pokemon. You can see he has 286 posts. Where does it show that? Oh yeah, up here at the top, 286 posts.
You might want to put your screen on the screen.
Oh shoot, crazy! Can't believe I didn't even notice that. All right, so sorry guys about that, but here's his Pokemon, which is the 286 Pokemon in Pokemon apparently, and then there's 286 posts. Now there is a viral tweet going around Twitter that has a lot of other 286s that some of them are not true, as Zach pointed out in his video. Some of those are lies, so don't believe everything. But these two things are true. The 286 Pokemon. But if you scroll down his Twitter and you go to one of his actual posts, he did a lot of retweeting. But one of his, let me actually look and see here. Actually, it is. It's his last post where he actually really wrote something for on his own. All the other posts here are retweets. Oh, maybe right here. Oh yeah, May 14th, I guess he did write something, but it was also it's mostly all retweets. But if you go to this one on May 8 or April 18th, it says horror vacui, or however you say that. And as soon as I saw that, it caught my attention because as I showed you guys yesterday, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, the gun, the weapon of Luigi is the vacuum cleaner. And this is essentially like a haunted mansion, like a horror, right? Like a horror, Halloween horror. And he literally posted horror vacui, which means nature abhors a vacuum. And what's funny is if you type this in gematria, it just happens to equal 148. And if you guys have been watching,
Look at the 1261. That's the current
yeah,
lunation.
that's what I was wanting to show you, Derek, because I thought you'd
Ah,
appreciate that. I noticed that also. The lunation that this all happened in was 1261, right? So if you go to the date of the murder, it was lunation 1261, and just happens to have that 1261 in one of his last tweets when you type in the name that he tweets here. And yeah, it's just crazy because like Luigi has the vacuum cleaner, and if you read about this, the horror vacui, it's kind of it goes deep, I think. It's actually pretty deep concept because the whole concept of a vacuum is like emptiness. That's pretty much what vacuum means is empty or vacant. So like there's something this is all I have right now. But what I'm saying is also if you guys have been watching Joseph Aquaviva's videos, he's been showing how the 148 has been so big. And oh look, it's got the 888. I mean,
yeah. If you measure from the date on Luigi's fake ID to the release of Dark Moon, it's exactly 14 years and 8 months. So that was 7/21/98.
To which date again?
I think it was the release of so March 20th of 2013, the game release.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Now, what's wild is that 14 years and 8 months, it's also 176 months. And when you write out Donald J. Trump, it's 148 and 176.
Yep. Yep. That was those two numbers were a huge part of my election decodes because the election was all synced up with the 176 and the 148 because Guy Fawkes Day equals 176 and 148 and uh what was I can't even remember all of it now, but there's so much connection with the election in those two numbers. So, and look, the 286th day left in the year.
Whoa.
That's it, man. I was looking for more of that connection, and there it is. And that's why, there you go, guys. Live on stream, you find it. That's why he has 286 posts now, because it does connect to this video game again. Oh, another thing I found that I might as well just add in while I'm here. If you go from the birthday of the guy he killed, July 10th,
Yep.
to his, or if you go from the guy he killed to his birthday, which is 1998. What was the day again?
Well, 721 was on the fake ID. 5/6 was the real birthday.
Yeah, so look how many months. That means Brian Thompson was in his 286th month.
Nice.
So that's just all I have so far, but this 286 probably goes deeper than that even, but I don't know. I might, since I've revealed it in this decode, I might not make a video about it, but I don't know. It just seems like really interesting, especially since this is actually numerology that's gone viral on Twitter, the 286 stuff. So maybe it would be a good video to make.
Well, I think the 611 should go viral.
Yeah.
611 weeks after the game comes out was the date of the assassination, which equals 611.
Right.
When Trump was shot at, it was 6:11 p.m. That was 116 days before he won the election on 11/6. And then when you write out Luigi Nicholas Mangione, it's 116.
Yeah. That was
also,
a
it
huge
was
number.
6 months, 11 days after Morgan Spurlock, the McDonald's filmmaker, died.
Right. I wonder if there's a whole moon connection here too. Look at that. There's 23 years and 301 days between. You know that Lambda has been really going on about the moon and the 301 connection.
For sure.
So, and that's interesting too. I started out this decode kind of talking about the 302, which is not so far off from the 301. And yeah, and the 320 to go with the game releasing on 320, isn't that a very special day in Thelema? I believe that's their big day. Thelema's big day is 320.
That's the spring equinox. That's Barron Trump's birthday,
Right.
and that's the year that that's the original New Year was the spring equinox. I think Iran, that's when they celebrate their New Year. I forget what it's called, but yeah, that's a very important date. I was looking at Barron Trump and his mother, and they have the exact same lunar birthday. I forget the years that they're apart, but it's an exact number of lunar years that they're apart.
Wait, what wasn't Barron Trump born on 3/20/1998?
2006 was it? Was it not 2006? Yeah, I think it was 2006. But I could be wrong about that. Yeah.
Well, quick interjection. I gotta take off, guys. So thanks again, Cody, for having me on the stream. And Casey, it was great to talk to you again, man. Great stuff as always.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll talk to everybody shortly.
All right, man. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you later. Have a good rest of your day out there.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take it easy. Much love. Till next time.
Yeah, so Barron and Melania born exactly 444 lunar months apart, or 37 lunar years.
What's her birthday? What's Melania's birthday?
Oh shoot, I have to look it up. Yeah, but that's the thing, I think you've talked about Donald Trump being a moon child. I think there's a good argument for Melania Trump being a moon child as well. and then they combine, and then they have Baron who has the same. Anyways, her birthday's April 26, 1970,
Hmm.
and then Baron is March 20th, 2006.
Yeah, I see. So 444 moon phases.
Yep.
Huh. So in case you guys in the chat are wondering, this is
And
the measurement from Melania Trump to Barron Trump is actually exactly 444 moon phases. Hmm. What was that, Casey? Something else? Did you cut out? Can't hear you now. Let's see. But yeah, guys, lots of wild stuff, like maybe I'll do a video tomorrow about the
yeah,
286. Oh, there you are. I can hear you.
yeah, it's like I have to have the window open for StreamYard. I guess I don't know what to do. I've always having issues with StreamYard, man. It's so frustrating. But yeah, I was just saying you can verify that they share that lunar birthday view by going and finding a Islamic calendar. It's called a Hijri calendar, and you can convert their birthdays. They have uh, the same month and day in the Islamic calendar. And
Huh.
one thing I did want to mention, I know we were talking about Trump turning 326 Mercury years old on December 19th, is I wanted to remind you that that's Jake Gyllenhaal's birthday. He turns
Uh-huh.
40. Yeah. And, he was in Donnie Darko, right?
Right.
So, and that
Yeah,
kind of, yeah.
honestly, I think there'll be like there might just be like a part two video kind of looking at more connections with this plane stuff because
Yeah.
I kind of got distracted today with this whole Steve Mensch thing, but there's
Right.
definitely like a whole nother layer of decoding I want to do with based off of the whole December 19th date.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. 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 I understand that. And,
um, but yeah, there's definitely something to look in here with these two. They're born 13,113 days apart also. So that's like the date of the pandemic, like forward and backwards. Like that's interesting.
mhm.
So
Yeah. And then too, that 426, that's the Chernobyl date. And she's kind of from that region.
well, that's perfect too because nuclear equals 444.
Okay. Yeah. Sumerian. Right.
Yeah.
So,
And Sean, if Sean was in the chat, he would like that 585. She's born in lunation 585.
oh yeah. Well, that's another thing about I mentioned Sean Astin. I do think there's something to that because if you go from the start of the Brown Nation series to his birthday, it's 595 lunar months, and
Uh,
that 595. You know what that's about?
right.
That's the big serious number.
Oh, and I mean, I don't know if I want to share this on live or not because this is a huge find, and I'm probably going to use it in another video. But I found like the biggest, craziest, serious connection. I don't know. Did I? I don't think I wrote this to you in the Discord, but man,
Yeah,
with Roman Reigns, the
yeah,
WWE wrestler Roman Reigns,
yeah.
um, man, he's so synced up with 9/11 and serious. It's the like it's a no doubter. It's really a no doubter.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to hear about that because serious is kind of it's kind of my thing.
Yeah, because he was in earlier in his career, he was known as the big dog, right? Of
Ah,
course,
yeah.
Sirius is located in
Canis
basically big
Major.
dog.
Yeah, Canis Major, which is the large dog or the larger dog, and then yeah,
Yeah, and so yeah, I'll probably write it to you later in the chat because I don't know if I want to show it yet on here, but man, it's so obvious what his birthday to 9/11 and how it's
yeah.
perfect with Sirius, like in every
Well,
way.
the whole mythology with Rome is. I think it's a big serious Gemini riddle because you have Romulus and Remus, or Ramus, however you say it, and
Uh-huh.
they were suckled by uh, a wolf, a she wolf.
Right.
A Sirius and Gemini, Sirius and the twins, right there.
Well, that's Roman Reigns. That's his full story. Like known
Yeah.
as the big dog earlier in his career, he's a Gemini, and he
Oh,
has
okay.
yeah. Don't forget, Roman Reigns apparently has two sets of twins, I think,
Yeah.
and he also apparently has two twin cousins who are with him in the bloodline. And at one
Mhm.
time during his reign, he had two titles, like twin titles. Like it's so
Right.
obvious with him. Like so yeah, what you just said there with the whole Romulus and Remus and the dog thing, I mean I think that's the nail in the coffin. Like I
Mhm.
guess I need to make a whole video on this. Like and maybe hopefully we can get um Rambo on soon too, with that cuz like man,
Yeah,
I don't
Rambo and
know
I,
how
we're both Gemini, and we have twin brothers. So
yeah, that I remember that now, yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely a huge connection. I'll share it with you. I'll just write it to you later.
Okay.
I think I wrote that to Derek or something, and I forgot to send it to you also. But I know you'll like it. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Hey, again with we talked about the 302 earlier in the stream, uh, and that I mentioned the flight 302 crash. Well, that was the second 737 Max crash. The first one was on 10/29/2018, the 302nd day of the year, and the Hebrew word for lightning, which is pronounced barak, has that 302 gematria in Hebrew. And then, you're talking about that plane crash being in Florida. Well, Florida is like the lightning capital of the United States. The crash was on 6/12, as most of the world writes it.
mhm.
Zeus, Zeus has 6/12 gematria in Greek isopsophy. Zeus, the Greek, I believe that's the Greek word for Zeus is a Greek word, right? And then, of course, Florida has the initials FL. There's you another 6/12. So
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of the other riddle. I think with the Zeus and the lightning.
oh yeah,
Um, like yeah, definitely something there. And then there's probably a whole Obama connection also with this.
right.
Um, because we are coming up on the anniversary of Obama being in the classroom, last year. So just wondering if we get something connected to that, or if maybe this was connected. Because, also Friday the 13th coming up, Taylor Swift's birthday. That connects with that plane movie that came out with Gerard Butler. And you know
Oh,
what's really crazy?
what's funny
Go
about
ahead.
that is the 12/13. Tyler Perry and Donald Trump are born 12/13 weeks apart.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I
Yeah,
saw that too, and
yeah,
I'm glad you remembered that because I knew there was something I saw earlier with that number, but that's what it was. It was Trump and Tyler Perry, 12/13. So
yeah,
that did get me thinking. Like I wonder if that's why this is coming out now.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, like with the Tyler Perry thing, I think there's even more to that. I like again, sometimes I don't have enough time in a day to go like as deep as I want to, but
yeah. With the 286, I really recommend going to Dan Barron's blog, search the 286, and then sort it by date. And I think you'll see a lot of relevant things come up with the 286. I know that's a number that Dan Barron has talked a lot about over the years. And I think the one that I did see, I did glance at it, is that Richard Branson and Austin Powers, I think, have that 286 Francis Bacon gematria. But
mm. Yeah, I was as soon as I saw that number come up, I was looking more for because I haven't really ever seen that number much,
yeah,
but
that's
I'm gonna have to look more into it.
yeah, that'd be definitely a good place to look. So
Okay, yeah, I'll do that for sure.
yeah.
Anything
Oh, and
else
then
you want to share?
Yeah. One more thing, I know Derek mentioned earlier, like the 12/19 and the 12/6 date and the 13-day difference. And I was kind of surprised that he didn't mention that. If you convert 12/19 to the Julian calendar, it would be 12/6 because there's a 13-day difference in the Julian and Gregorian calendar. And again,
Uh-huh.
that's something that Dan Barrett, he kind of pioneered that a long time ago. Like, hey, I don't remember what set that off for him, but he makes a real good case on why we should be looking at the Julian calendar. Again, go check out his blog, and you should be able to find that.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, that's a good point that I didn't even think of
Yeah,
when he originally said that,
yeah,
that literally is the day on the Julian. So that could be what we got. I mean, we'll
right.
see what happens on the 19th, but that's
Yeah,
definitely interesting.
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, so let me think if there's anything else. Mm, What was it?
yeah,
And also, thank you for finding that 828 connection with Steve Mensch
yeah,
because that was a number I've always been looking at with Trump and the plane connection.
yeah,
So the fact that and it's actually so perfect because it's 22,828 and 22 is the gematria of crash.
yeah. And that's another thing too. I'm assuming it was a small aircraft, and there's these things called, it's like an export code, and the code for small aircraft, it's under a certain weight. I can't remember the weight, but the code is 88. Uh, it's like 880022. It's, whatever it is, it's the same number sequence as the text Trump. The 88. I think it's 88022.
Wait, so what is it? It's a code? It's a code for a
Yeah,
plane?
it's like a tariff code for small aircraft. It's 88. It's like 88022.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I always thought that was
Terror.
Yeah, I always thought that was wild. And that's funny, man. Because what's his big what did he campaign on? Is he was going to increase tariffs, right? And then you have this tariff code, the 88022, that's about small aircraft.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
wild. You
yeah,
guys seeing this? I hope people in the chat are still with us. I didn't check the chat, but yeah, so look at this, guys. The tariff, one of the tariff codes for airplanes is 88022. Huh.
yeah,
Let me just show them so people who are unaware of it.
yeah. And then JFK Jr. He was in a small aircraft. When he died.
Yeah,
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Wait, look, look at this, guys. If you type in Trump 88022 and you scroll down the pictures, my video's right there, man.
Hey,
Look at that. My video's like literally third row down, Trump 8822. That's my video. How crazy, huh?
that's cool. Yeah,
But yeah, I mean,
I was told Derek, like, that your channel is the tip of the spear as far as gematria goes. I mean, say what he can say what he wants to about Zach, being on the same team. I don't know. I have to dismiss Zach. It's just way too much toxicity coming from him.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get what
yeah,
you mean, and I mean, I watched Zach, and if the info's there, I like I said, when watching him today, I would have missed the 286 thing, but like I get what you mean because of
right.
all the stuff he's done throughout the years with you and with others. So I get what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, I don't begrudge him or anything. It's just I try to go back and listen to his recent stuff, but it's just the same. You're getting the same pattern of behavior, right?
Yeah.
But
But yeah, I mean the big thing here is this is pretty wild. Man, this code for
yeah,
airplanes 88022, and that's Trump's code.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and then to I guess we're real quick. I just want to run through the Mercury ages. You know, of course, Trump turned 302 when Flight 302 crashed. He turned 318 when the Nepal Airlines crash. I believe that was 115. Um, I can't remember the year. And then the recent one is when he turned 322 Mercury years old for the Tokyo plane crash. And
Hmm.
so it just kind of setting up the stage for this 1219 date. And yeah,
Yeah, it would definitely definitely something to look for. I mean,
yeah,
like the plane crashes with Trump, like.
right, right.
And did you hear me earlier how I said that Tyler Perry just happened to be 28820 weeks? So that's like the basically the if you just
Yeah,
rearrange the numbers, that's
yeah,
basically
yeah.
the
If you span the dates, you get that 2882. Yeah,
yeah, it's just crazy that it's exactly Trump's code too. So like I
yeah,
think I think there's probably even more too with Tyler Perry. I didn't even really look much into him, but
yeah.
um
And
I did
again
see that
with
I
Dan
did see
Barron.
that he was posting on his. You know how Luigi, this game that's connected right now, the antagonist for this game is King Boo,
Okay.
and if you go to Tyler Perry's Wikipedia, and the first picture they have on his thing is him interviewing for the movie Boo and Medea's Halloween,
Yeah, yeah.
and he's from New Orleans, so this might all connect to the Super Bowl next year too.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When I think about Tyler Perry, like I'm not I don't follow him real close, but that's the first thing that comes to my mind is his Medea Halloween movies.
Mhm.
So that definitely, yeah, that makes sense that would be connected. But yeah, I was just gonna say again with Dan Barrett, he was one of the first people. Along with Zenith of the Alpha, they really did a lot of work on that manifest. With the 828.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Look at that. Medea's Boo 2, a Medea Halloween on Kamala's birthday.
Okay. Hey, you know that Boo is a it's a two is it a it's a 266
Yeah.
BOO. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Also, Boo is kind of reminds you of Barack Obama, right?
Yeah.
BOO, Barack
Yeah.
Obama.
Yeah.
So there might be something there with that also. But yeah,
Mhm.
I'll be looking more into this. Everyone in the chat, like we're just kind of brainstorming here. So thank you guys for sticking around and listening to our brainstorm. But
Right.
yeah, we'll see what comes in the. I might have a video coming out in the next few days about the Friday the 13th that's coming up. Of course, I don't have a whole lot of stuff on that yet. Cozy's saying in the chat the New Mexico area code is 88022.
Okay.
That's something to think about. New Mexico.
Oh, it's got to be a zip code, right?
Yeah, it's a zip code, yeah.
Yeah.
88022.
I know that movie came out, the 6888, about mail carriers, World War II, and
Uh-huh.
I noticed that the Postmaster General, he's been in the news uh, lately. He's been getting quizzed by Congress, or yeah, questioned by Congress. Yeah, he's kind of, yeah, just again with the mail thing, I guess.
Yeah, I just find it interesting that this movie is it basically women that are doing the delivering?
Yeah, it's black women actually.
Yeah, so I just keep seeing all of these connections with Kamala, man. It would just
Yeah,
surprise me if eh, she doesn't somehow get in there. Like
yeah,
again, like
yeah.
I just feel like again, like this kind of stuff I keep seeing, black women
Mm,
um delivering mail, you know. I don't
yeah.
know, but unless Trump is really unless,
Mm,
these people online that are always saying that every celebrity is really a transformer and unless Trump is really maybe Trump really is a female and, you know, all the female stuff actually connects to him. Like, I don't know. But he did beat two women, I guess, too, in both his elections. This
Yeah,
movie's a 127 minutes as well, like Pearl Harbor.
right. You know, the if you spell out United States Postal Service, it has that 1957 gematria in the Latin cipher, and then uh, if you look at JFK's lifespan, it's the 1957th prime number.
Yeah.
I always thought that was interesting. Yeah. Of course, he's got the the Mercury messenger coding to him. Yeah.
You know what I see that's really crazy about this too? The second release date of this movie is coming out December 20th.
Yeah, yeah, real close to that.
No, but this
I know you talked about that 12/20 date.
I did because this is the 47th month since Biden's office. So if Kamala's gonna so not only is it the 47th month, it's exactly 47 months after the Biden inauguration. It's also 1128 days after she became president for 85 minutes, and 1128 is um the 47th triangular number. Not only that, if you look at this date, December 19th, December 20th, it's exactly 8,500 days after 9/11. And
Hmm.
Kamala Harris was president, or she had power for 85 minutes. So this
Yeah.
um this coming out this day with the black women on it, it's just, and that's not even to mention what WWE is doing in a few days on George Washington's birthday or death date.
Yeah.
They're literally crowning the first ever United States women's champion.
Ah, you
Like
know,
they've never had this title before in their whole history, and they're just now putting it there, and they're
huh?
crowning the first ever women's United States champion on George Washington's death date.
Hey,
And I haven't even made a video about this.
Kerry Washington is the lead role in that 6 888.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Kerry
yeah,
Washington.
yeah,
Yeah, I need to look into all of this actually. I need to look into this.
yeah, dude. Oh man.
Huh. I'm just wondering,
Hey,
this Kerry
what do you think about all these drones showing up? Like, I think New Jersey is kind of a hot spot.
Yeah, I've seen that, but I really haven't looked into it.
Yeah,
But
I'm gonna get into the mystical side real quick. I had a dream like early last year. I think it was this February 4th of 23, and I was at a stadium, and then these spaceships come down, and we like everybody flees out of the stadium, and we start running through the woods or the jungle, and I see all these mandrills in the trees, right? You know what you know what a mandrill is? It's like Rafiki from the Lion King. He's a
uh
he's a mandrill. They're like a they're kind of like they're like a baboon, but they have like the blue face and the red
right, okay.
rear end. And anyways, it was wild because last month I was at the Titan Stadium for the first time in my life, and it kept making me think about that dream. And then I feel like they're having like a Lion King prequel come out this month, and I feel like it kind of flew under the radar, like right up until the past month that it was coming up, and it just made me think like, I had that dream, the stadium, the mandrills, and then I was in a stadium and the new Lion King movie's coming out. Maybe the fake alien invasion is around the corner. But
Like I think that we often talk about all these other things that could happen, blackouts,
yeah,
Trump stuff, plane crashes, blackouts of, you know, World
yeah,
War III, but like an alien invasion is often one of those
yeah.
psyops or one of those events that a lot of the truth community I think forgets about. So I think it could be.
And you know how closely Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump, they're kind of like twins basically, and that was one of Ronald Reagan's big things.
Uh-huh.
Is he talked about there being an alien threat that would unite the world.
Wow, really? Hmm.
Yeah, you don't remember him saying you're not familiar with that
No,
that
I am
Reagan?
familiar with
Yeah,
it, but I also thought
yeah,
that was something that I thought that was said by somebody else, though. I didn't know it was Ronald Reagan.
yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was Reagan. Somebody else could have mentioned it, but in my memory, it's Ronald Reagan that I attribute that to.
Hmm.
So and you got
Yeah, but that's what I often
Ronald.
think too. Like they might like say these aliens come, and then all these war things will stop because everyone now has to fight this alien threat. I don't know, but that would
Yeah,
be crazy if that's what happens.
yeah. Cody, do you think sometimes like we're too immersed in technology, like the amount of time we spend decoding things and just in general, like I know most of my evenings I just I'm wasting all kinds of time just scrolling through Instagram or looking back at comments and replies to comments or you know listening to YouTube videos.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I think there is a balance to it. I think
yeah,
like for me, yeah, I think we are, but at the same time, I think the way I see it, I think everything's kind of happening the way it's meant to. But I think at the
mhm,
same time, if we do lose access to the electronics, the internet at some point, it won't
yeah,
be a bad thing for us. I mean, I think it could be though, because I think a lot of people will go crazy. Um, I know
yeah,
myself personally, I have a strong enough mentality that I would find something else to immerse myself in if I didn't have the internet because I always find something to have fun with. I've always been like that.
yeah,
For instance, when I was, when I graduated high school in 2008, I was bored. I had gotten a part-time job because that was all they were offering at the time. So I didn't have a lot of time, and back then the internet wasn't as big. 2008, it was just
yeah,
kind of now getting, and I immersed myself in music, guitar. I learned guitar. So
yeah,
I think honestly, if the internet were to go down, I'd probably just go back to being a guitar player again. Like,
yeah,
um, I think it's good to have an outlet of art. It's I think most of humanity spends way too much time consuming other people's art rather than producing their own art.
yeah,
So, and I think that's what this channel is for me, really, is my art. I know it's decoding and it's exposing stuff, but I am creating something here, so
yeah,
uh, I think there has to be a balance though. I think it's good to, like, I don't personally spend a whole lot of time scrolling like
mm,
Instagram or Twitter. I'm most of the time always doing some sort of research. Either
yeah,
that or I'm listening to music, or but I know there's a lot of people out there that, you know, spend a lot of time scrolling, and they're just
yeah,
scrolling to look at stuff. And I
right,
think I do have a habit of that sometimes, but I can get where like the majority of like this generation just scrolls, and
yeah,
but I don't think it's bad. I don't think you can really beat yourself up for it. I think just curiosity, I guess, right? I think
yeah,
maybe humanity's weakness is just curiosity because I think we're just curious.
yeah,
Um yeah, so I don't know. That's kind of my feeling on it. I think
mm,
honestly, I spend a lot of time on the computer doing research and stuff, and I try to make sure I also do other things, but
yeah,
sometimes it's about finding a better balance.
yeah, for sure. I just know like they say like currency is these days is people's attention, and we give a lot of our attention to things that are heavily that are really dependent on the internet. Like the news cycle, Wikipedia, like being doing the gematria. We're going often going to Wikipedia and like getting the birthday, getting the first, middle, last name, and
Right.
yeah. So
Yeah, I think it's like personally, I just feel like, yeah, I think sometimes it can be much, but at the other time, for me personally, I just feel like I'm right where I'm meant to be. I just
yeah,
kind of, I've always had that feeling in my life. I don't feel like I'm doing something wrong because I feel like
Mm.
well, if this is what God wants me doing right now, I don't think I'd be here doing it. So,
Yeah.
um, and in what I'm doing with the channel, and usually what I'm doing is for my channel, and I feel like my channel is here, and to all of you guys in the chat too, just to a reminder that there's people here listening. It's just so awesome to have a community of people too that want to sit around and listen to me talk and listen to me share my finds um I try to hopefully encourage more people to be creative too, not just in gematria, but if you guys
Hmm.
have an art that you want to invest your time in, I think it's important to do that. If you want to be a musician, if you want to be a writer, if you want to be a builder, if you want to be a whatever else you can think of in your life that you want to do to be creative, it doesn't just have to be gematria, but gematria is just another art, in my opinion. It does go just, you know, with any other art. So, and I think it's important to share your art too, because I think that's why we have art in this world is to be able to share it. So that's just kind of how I see it. But yeah, thank you guys for listening, and I think I'm gonna start wrapping it up here. Casey, you still there?
Yeah, yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, so I think I'll go ahead and start wrapping it up. But yeah, I think that's a good question.
Yeah,
I think it's a good thing to think. It's always good to check yourself though too. Is this something that I want to be doing or should I be doing or
yeah,
um because I often do it too, I say, okay, am I spending too much time? Personally, the past month I haven't really the first couple, weeks of this month I did take a bit of a break. I didn't do a whole lot of decoding, so
yeah.
I kind of started to find my love for music again. Honestly, I think that's my next. I'll never stop this YouTube channel, and I'll always be here decoding for you guys. But I think my music urge is coming back full force. So
Oh, that's
maybe
cool.
we'll have to create a gematria band. I know Derek's also a musician.
Yeah. I mean,
I think it would be.
Dan Barron, he's in a band. He may even be in like two or three bands, as far as I know. He's very gifted musically. And I bring this question up to you because it is kind of something that it's I asked Dan Barron the same question, like, are we getting a little too, are we going a little too far with how much time we're spending on this? So yeah,
Mm.
I thought it was only fair to, like, put that, question to somebody else too. But
I think it's a valid. Um, I think it's
mm,
just a valid check. It's just your consciousness or your spirit checking yourself. Saying, is
yeah,
this something that to be honest, like I said, I feel like what we've done to this point, we've been meant to do. But if there is a change in your spirit saying, okay, we supposed to individually, we have to each analyze that ourselves, I think, right? Like
uh,
me personally, I don't feel like yet it's like I'm spending too
mm,
much time doing it, especially right now, being winter. I
yeah.
literally have here in Germany, the weather is absolute crap. Like no sun at all. Even
Oh,
if I
really?
wanted to go out and do something, like it wouldn't even be fun. It wouldn't be warm. So right now I don't feel like the urge to really do much else, but towards
Mm,
the summer again, now that I have a bit more money coming in from crypto and
yeah.
I would like to travel. Me and my girlfriend would both like to travel to Thailand or Vietnam or Philippines or something. But also I have this urge to go back home and see my mom. So there's other things that I need to be doing, but um right now there's not much else to really do. I mean, I spend time with my girlfriend, I spend time cooking and cleaning and doing stuff around the house and but going out and doing things is just so hard right now because the weather's so crap here. Like literally since I've been here, man, I got here at the end of November or at the end of October around Halloween, and there's been like maybe 2 days of sun. So like and not even full days. Like there was like one
Well,
day last week where me and my girlfriend were able to go out and like be in the sun and go shopping and go to a few restaurants,
Yeah.
but it's just been here. It's just been absolutely ridiculous how cloudy it is all the time.
Yeah. Is that typical for Germany, or is that kind of
I
a
mean, it's kind of typical, but my girlfriend says it's on another level this year. Like
yeah?
it's like I said, like literally 2 days of sun, maybe three if I can remember, maybe 3 days of sun in like 40 days since I've been here. So you just and it is a bit depressing. I'm not one to easily get depressed or down, but in fact I almost never am. But it is like just it's more annoying than like saddening. It's just more annoying than anything. Because
Yeah.
as soon as there's a sunny day, you'll see planes spraying in the sky again, like immediately. And then the next day you'll have like a super bad day, like a cloudy, windy, rainy. So
Yeah. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe hit up a tanning bed or something.
yeah, we actually went to a spa. Was it last week? Me and my girlfriend went to a spa, so that was good. But thanks to my brother Casey Jones, or not Casey, Kevin in the chat. You got the KC like the KC. I was thinking, but much love to you too, brother. Thanks for joining, and thanks to all of you guys. I'm gonna start wrapping it up now. Casey, are you still there? We'll wrap it up.
Yeah, man, that sounds good. I think I've tortured the audience long enough, so I'll let you
No,
sign off.
definitely not torture, man. It was good to hang out with you, and
Yeah.
good to hang out with you and Derek. So,
Yeah.
all right,
All
well, thanks, man. Thanks for everything you do, and thanks for your great connections. And I'll talk to you. I'll send you that serious thing later on.
right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'll catch you over there in Discord.
All right, man. Have a
All
good
right. See
rest of
you
your day
guys.
there.
All right.
And thank you to all of you guys in the chat. Much love to every single one of you. Thank you for hitting the like buttons, and thank you for listening to us ramble on for an hour. But hopefully the stream was entertaining and you guys enjoyed. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Much love.